Hi, before we get started, just a little quick warning for you. This video contains a discussion of graphic events going on between the Israeli-Palestine conflict. I also go over a description of white phosphorus and what it does to the human body. It burns very, very hot, so you've been warned. So within the last 2 weeks, you guys all know the Israel-Palestine conflict kicked up a bit. Within this time frame, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu retweeted this. Israeli Defense Force is the world's most moral army via PragerU. What the fuck? Did he just upload the whole fucking video? So this is why I do PragerU content. Alright, let's take a look at the video, I guess. PragerU. Free videos, free minds. But Prager, I was under the impression that nothing was free. Curious. All right, Israel, the world's most moral army. Let's take a look. Let's go.
There are two views of the Israeli military. What you hear in most of the media and the truth.
Okay. Unironically, or ironically, I would say this is true because the media is very kind to the Israeli military, probably undeservedly so. You know, manufacturing consent and all that. We're gonna be stuck with PragerU propaganda being spread for years, aren't we? Oh yeah, that's why we do this on this channel.
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
I have a feeling he's not gonna tell us the truth. Just a hunch. Here's my evidence. The Prager University. When that's in the video, it's usually not telling me the truth. No, I do not invest in Bitcoin. I invest in murder. Okay.
Was the commander of British forces in Afghanistan. I have fought in combat zones around the world, including Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Macedonia, and Iraq.
I don't know if that makes you the good guy.
Also present throughout the conflict in Gaza in 2014.
Ah!
Based on my experience
It's all on fire.
and on my observations, the Israel Defense Force, the IDF, does more to safeguard the rights of civilians in a combat zone than any other army in the history of warfare.
Oh boy, this is gonna age very poorly by the end of the video. Alright, so I guess Netanyahu just was like, I gotta find some defense for the ethnic cleansing we're doing. Oh look, there's a PragerU video. Well, I'll just use that. They look legitimate.
Why is this so? Firstly, Israel is a decent country with Western values
God.
and democratic principles.
Oh God. Notice that like none of these are these are pretty much all subjective claims. Decent country? What's a decent country? Western values? What are Western values? It's code word for white, let's be real. Democratic principles? Maybe you could argue that if you have elections, but then again, Netanyahu's been prime minister for like, what, 15 years? Is that really a democracy at that point? Doubt. I'm going with doubt. Coca-Cola's Western values. There you go. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of hung up on the Israel is a decent country. How could you say a sentence like that and like take yourself seriously? Most people across the world would say their country is decent, but they could improve it in various ways. I bet you if we took a survey of everyone in North Korea, they'd say the same thing.
Israel has no more interest in war than Belgium does.
That's the example he's gonna give? All right. I wouldn't give that one if I were you. Atrocities in the Congo Free State. In the period of 1885 to 1908, many well-documented atrocities were perpetrated in the Congo Free State, today Democratic Republic of the Congo, which at the time was a colony under the personal rule of King Leopold II of the Belgians. Okay, we have the Belgian colonial empire in that whole region there. You got the Belgian Congo. All right, guy. Now, he's saying this because when you pull up a map, Belgium is this region right here, sandwiched in between France and Germany and the Netherlands. And you think and say, oh, that's like a nice Western, Northern European country. It's white. It must be it's a nice place to live. It's a nice country. There's nothing, they don't go to war. There's nothing wrong with them. That's why.
In fact, Israel has never started a war. The only reason it ever goes to war is to defend itself.
Okay, that's also not true. I've mentioned this a couple times before. Suez Crisis. or the Second Arab-Israeli War, was an invasion of Egypt in late 1956 by Israel. Followed by the United Kingdom and France. The aims were to regain control of the Suez Canal for the Western powers and to remove the Egyptian president, Nasser, who had just nationalized the canal. After the fighting had started, political pressure from the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Nations, you never hear a trifecta of those three coming together, led to a withdrawal by the three invaders. The episode humiliated the United Kingdom and France and strengthened Nasser. Good job, Israel. Not only did Israel start this fucking war, it brought upon them widespread condemnation from the US, the USSR, and the UN. How often have you heard of a country doing something, getting all three of them at the same time coming down on you? Just the US and the USSR alone condemning you at the same time is impressive. You have to impressively fuck up to get both of them on your back like that. Amazing. But trust me, I'm PragerU. Israel's never started a war. Maybe he would say it wasn't a war, it was just a conflict, which I would say that's bullshit. Maybe he would say, oh, we didn't start the war because Egypt invaded Israel, you know, a decade prior. That's bullshit too. But he's not gonna mention any of that.
The only reason it ever goes to war is to defend itself. And it has to defend itself because, unlike Belgium, it is surrounded by countries and armed groups that want to destroy it.
Brown people. He means brown people. They say this a few times, but I don't really believe that in the current world of current geopolitics today, I really don't believe that these neighboring countries around Israel have any interest in invading Israel anymore. At the start, yeah, but that's 80 years ago.
Secondly,
okay, doesn't give any more acknowledgement for it. Yeah, okay, that's very convenient, I noticed.
Secondly, Judaism, with its unsurpassed moral standards.
It's fucking glowing. Oh god. Ugh.
With its unsurpassed moral standards, remains a major influence on the citizens of Israel.
Judaism with its unsurpassed moral standards. What? Again, that's another highly subjective claim. Yeah, that's a thing that like 90% of people in the world clearly disagree with, considering most people are not Jews.
I say this as a non-Jew.
I say this as a cuck. Can I not say that on Twitch? No, I can. You can't say simp on Twitch. I just said simp on Twitch. Okay, whatever. Nobody cares about me.
Thirdly, the army is composed overwhelmingly of citizen soldiers.
I just realized like how fucking stupid that sentence he said is. So I don't know if y'all knew this, but military service in Israel is mandatory for everyone. For all Israeli citizens over the age of 18. National military service is mandatory for all Israeli citizens over the age of 18. Although Arab, but not Druze citizens are exempted if they so please. Other exceptions may be made on religious, physical, or psychological grounds. But ultimately this means the vast majority of Israeli citizens serve in the IDF, serve in the Israeli military. So like, don't fucking tell me your army is moral if you literally fucking force people to fight in your army, dude. Holy shit. The United States got rid of that a long time ago because it caused some major fucking problems. During the Vietnam War, when the United States just invaded Israel. No, when we invaded Vietnam, we still had the draft back then. Not everyone had to serve in the military, but it was like a kind of a randomly selected thing. During the Vietnam War, like morale was so low. A lot of soldiers who were like drafted were just like, I'm not gonna fucking fight. You know, I'm not gonna run away because that's a crime. It's called desertion. But a lot of them were like, well, I'm not gonna fucking fight the Viet Cong. There's interviews of people, of soldiers just sitting there. They're sitting there smoking and they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna fight. Fuck this. This whole thing is wrong. And not only that, there's stories of like morale being so low that just randomly, United States soldiers just randomly fucking kill their commanding officer, drop a grenade in their tent. Who did it? I don't know. No one's gonna rat the guy out if they even noticed. As it turns out, when you're fighting a war, most people don't want to fight, and you're forcing people who don't want to fight the war, who don't want to fight at all, to go there. Yeah, it turns out it has really, really negative effects on the efficiency of your armed forces. We learned that lesson pretty harshly. We had to leave Vietnam as a result of all that. Nixon, a Republican president, abolished the draft in the United States. Holy shit, I didn't know any of that. Oh man, I'm just scratching the surface. It was really bad. Let me just put it simply and leave it at that. In my mind, I could still picture just seeing soldiers smoking. Their guns are just over there, laying on the ground. They're not even close to them. And they're like, nah, I'm not gonna do this. Cause it's like, they got fucking drafted for it. They don't wanna fight. It's a war that's clearly wrong. It's not their country. Why should they fucking care? The state of Vietnam poses no threat to the United States. Yeah, so we got rid of the draft because of that. Israel demands it of all of its citizens.
Israel's a small country with a small professional army. To fight a war, it depends on its conscripts and its reservists.
Because of the fear of communism, that's why. Yeah.
These are ordinary citizens, from professors to plumbers, called upon to defend their homes.
Okay, I know he's trying to phrase this to make it sound like he's trying to frame this to make it sound like it's a moral thing, but it's like, no, you're making professors and plumbers fucking fight for your military. Maybe this is because I'm an American, I have a very strong bias now. This is not a moral thing, forcing people to fight for your military. Didn't he say they were volunteers? No, I misheard him. He didn't say that. He said they were,
The army is composed overwhelmingly of citizen soldiers.
Not volunteers, citizen soldiers. Which is just a fancy way of saying they force all Israeli citizens to fight in the army. The forcing of professors and plumbers to fight in your military, this is actually a big reason why the United States fought our Revolutionary War. Hey, bit of a history lesson for you guys. Yeah, the Navy of Great Britain did this thing called impressment. Colloquially known as the press or press gang is the taking of men into a military or naval force by compulsion, with or without notice. European navies of several nations used forced recruitment by various means. This was a thing that, like, they would do to American colonies. They would just like fucking show up and grab people and take them on the ship. And it's like, well, now you work for us. Now you work for the British Navy. And in the United States, eventually people were like, we don't want to fucking do this. Also, a reason the War of 1812 happened. Yeah, that was a contributing factor to the War of 1812. That's correct. During the Revolutionary War, like, oh, taxation without representation is one thing, but how many, like, individual random people did that really affect? Not a whole lot. That affected the larger people. That affected business owners, which had some sway. But, oh, the British Navy is gonna fucking show up, steal your husband, steal your sons, and fucking throw them into the Navy against their will? This could happen to you. This could happen to any of us. Let's fight a revolution to get these fucking tea drinkers off our backs. So when a British guy, by the way, comes on here to say, oh, actually, when Israel makes your professors and plumbers fight in the military, they don't have a say in it, but when we make them fight in the military, it's actually a good thing. It's actually really moral. This is reprehensible to me. I think to most Americans, we would object to this strongly.
Called upon to defend their homes.
And he phrases it as, called upon to defend your homes. We're calling upon you to defend Queen and country. I guess during the time of the Revolutionary War, it was the king, but...
They don't want to be fighting, and they don't want to harm others.
You're right.
Nowhere was the essential morality...
Why'd you put him in the fucking military, dude? It's not you. I know, you're not Israel, but... Come on, what the fuck? Not much different from U.S. teachers allowed to hold guns.
And they don't want to harm others.
I didn't even notice that. Look at this. War is bad. Now I'm gonna go execute Johnny because he's starting shit.
Nowhere was the essential morality and decency of the IDF more evident than in the Gaza war of 2014.
Now, what's so horrible about this is there's been so much conflict between Israel and Palestine that I don't actually know what happened in 2014 specifically. Although I like that when I Google 2014 Gaza war, the first stuff that shows up is fucking smoke. Oh, wow. First thing here. BBC. Israeli 2014 Gaza war actions lawful. Yeah, all right. Oh, man. All right. Yeah, dude. You know, somehow I just have like a gut reaction to this. Somehow when I see big pictures of like giant apartment buildings that are like 10 stories tall, like on fire and collapsing, this doesn't give the impression of moral actions taken by a military. This is horrifying. Yeah. This is fucked up. Just imagining this happening here. Just someone fucking bombing apartment buildings here. Some military fucking bombing downtown Phoenix. Like, ooh, if that happened here, I'd probably be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go to war with you. Fuck you.
If ever there was a purely defensive war, this was it.
That's why we had to fucking level all these apartment buildings, dude.
The war was started by Hamas, the terror organization, designated as such by the US State Department that runs the Gaza Strip.
You think maybe it might have been started by taking the land from all these people and crushing them all into this tiny little zone and forcing them to live there in what is essentially an open air concentration camp, taking all their water, blocking all their imports, taking their houses, not allowing crops to live, and they essentially are all living under the heel of the IDF and Israeli police, but they don't even get a vote in their elections. You think that might have something to do with it? Because, like, the conditions there are a hell of a lot worse than what we in America had to go under. And we fucking fought a war over it. When you put it like that, it kind of makes any conflict initiated from these guys seem kind of justified, doesn't it?
In the first 6 months of 2014, Hamas
Look at Venezuela.
Darth Vader just subscribed. Don't do it again. Don't forget the blockade in the ports of Gaza. Oh yeah, all imports blocked. Does that sound moral to you? 85% of the water pumped out from the wells in Gaza goes to Israel. Gaza doesn't get it. Not only that, they fucking bomb the wells. Israel bombs the wells and bombs the desalinization plants. We're gonna take a screenshot of that face right there. That's a good face.
Hundreds of rockets at Israeli civilians. After repeated warnings from
hundreds of rockets at Israeli civilians. Yeah, that's true. Although, the way he framed that made it seem like Hamas was actually aiming at something. I think they were just kind of firing rockets blindly. Whatever they could fucking make. Most of them don't even work right.
Israel to stop. The Israeli Air Force finally conducted precision strikes to halt the
precision strikes. So fucking slimy, dude.
Rocket fire. And the IDF advanced into Gaza to destroy a network of terror tunnels that Hamas had constructed to
terror tunnels
to attack Israeli communities near the Gaza border.
Oh man, those Hamas people. They crawl into the ground, and they jump up in your homes like termites!
The IDF took extraordinary measures to give Gaza civilians notice of targeted areas.
You know, that's nice. I wouldn't call it extraordinary. It's like you get an hour ahead of time. And, you know, it's nice to give warning, but, like, it doesn't really mean much when you blow up the only fucking hospital in the Gaza Strip. It doesn't really mean much when my apartment building is fucking leveled, and now you just made a few hundred people homeless. This doesn't help any.
Dropping millions of leaflets, broadcasting radio messages, sending texts,
I'm sure,
and making tens of thousands of phone calls. Let me repeat that.
This is such a weird justification. Just imagine if I called you right now, like, hey, yeah. Hey, what's up? Hey, yeah, hi, how you doing? I'm gonna bomb your house in 30 minutes. You better get out of there. That would make me a terrorist? Just something to think about.
The Israelis called Gazans on their cell phones and told them to leave their residences and move to safety. Never in the history of warfare has an army phoned its enemy and told them where they're going to drop their bombs.
He's trying to make it sound like it's some new progressive thing, but you're essentially just kicking a population that can't even do anything.
Many IDF missions that could have taken out Hamas military capabilities were aborted to prevent civilian casualties, increasing the risk to Israeli citizens and soldiers.
I thought you people didn't like abortion. See, we're so moral. We could have just fucking nuked all of you to death and murdered every single one of you, but we didn't. That's how moral we are. You don't get credit for not murdering people when you're still fucking murdering people.
Despite all of this, of course innocent civilians were killed. Every war is chaotic and confusing, and mistakes are frequent.
This is one of those things that's true, but when someone says it, you're like, what's going on with you? We want Operation Protective Edge. This is the 2014 conflict he was referring to. So here we have a death count. Jews/Israelis, Arabs/Palestinians. Okay, killed and wounded. Now, during Operation Protective Edge, it says 73 Israelis were killed. Meanwhile, 2,100 Palestinians were killed. The Wikipedia page has varying numbers for how many Palestinians were killed. And I noticed that the Jewish Virtual Library has a lower number than the Hamas estimate and the UN estimate. So, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, Israel is correct. Let me just pull this calculator up real quick. 2,100 Palestinians killed. That's okay. That's not okay. Wait, no. Versus the 73 Israelis. So that is a 28.7. That's a 28.76 KDR, okay? Just so you can understand how bad that is. Now, when you play Call of Duty or other shooter games, there's this number that's called your kill to death ratio. That's how many other players you kill versus how many times you yourself are killed. When you get over a certain point, people start accusing you of hacking. So if your KDR is 28, something is wrong. Something is horribly wrong. On the Wikipedia page, it says here, 70% civilians, 60% civilian, 65% civilians. Civilian casualties, according to Hamas's own numbers and the UN numbers. 70 versus 65% civilian deaths. That's pretty fucking bad. Of note, Israel says only 36% were civilians. 44 were combatants and 20 were uncategorized males. Even the UN disagrees with Israel's numbers there. Okay, most moral army, we're totally not lying about the number of civilian people we fucking killed.
And mistakes are frequent. But mistakes are not war crimes.
That is actually not true. Mistakes are not war. How can you, fucking say that, dude? Accidents aren't necessarily war crimes. This is true. Sometimes collateral damage does happen. But at some point, reckless disregard for collateral damage over a period of time, yeah, that does become a war crime. Not only that, not everything Israel has done has been a mistake. You're not seriously going to convince me that bombing desalination plants, bombing wells to pull up fresh water, bombing hospitals, you're not going to convince me that these aren't war crimes. Bombing the Associated Press building, I know, that happened recently. That's not this video. This video is 2015. The Associated Press Al Jazeera building happened in the last week. Yeah, no, those are fucking war crimes. When you have a military that wants to commit war crimes or atrocities, what's one of the first things they like to do? Get rid of the press. Get rid of people who are gonna report on this. Hamas was there. It's very convenient that Hamas always happens to be everywhere they hit. I'm beginning to think they just say every Palestinian is Hamas. I don't believe them anymore. They said Hamas was in that building that was used by the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. What evidence did they give? None. They said they gave evidence to the United States Secretary. No, they said they gave evidence to the president, to Biden. The U.S. Secretary of State said he didn't see the evidence. Blinken hasn't seen any evidence on AP Gaza building strike. You know, if they cared about evidence, we probably would have seen it, as laymen. But then again, very convenient. Any other evidence that might be investigated to corroborate this is now fucking gone because they bombed the building. That's very convenient. So here's the spin they give. So every time it's something bad, oh, it's Hamas. Every time we can't verify it was Hamas, it was a mistake. Therefore, not a war crime either way.
Hamas, on the other hand, committed war crimes as official government policy. Hamas deliberately positioned its...
Yeah, they don't. In the end, though, Hamas doesn't ultimately have as much power as the Israeli military does. In the end, though, Israeli citizens don't have to live every single day under the oppressive boot of Hamas. Hamas doesn't have police that goes into fucking synagogues, tear gasses people who are praying during their holidays, and throw them out and call it a riot. Hamas doesn't do that. Israel does. This is not a fair one-to-one comparison. It never has been. They just try to make it and frame it that way to justify the crimes that they do commit. Israel does, I mean, and this guy.
Military assets among the civilian population. Hamas deliberately positioned its military assets among the civilian population, hiding weapons in schools and hospitals, and placing rocket launchers alongside apartment buildings, then forced those civilians to stay in areas they knew would be attacked.
I got to admit, I still kind of believe this, but then, like, now I'm at the point now where I wonder, I'm starting to doubt this. Stuff like bombing the Associated Press and Al Jazeera building is so fucking, like, not okay, and so clearly, like, a blatant fabrication on their part. I'm beginning to wonder if, you know, is this just something Israel says all the time?
They also instructed their people to report the lie that every Gazan killed was a civilian, even if they were actually fighters. And if there were no civilian deaths, Hamas made them up. Numerous internet sites show Palestinians elaborately staging sniper victims and smashed ambulances, among other phony horrors.
Okay, yeah, no, bullshit alarms going off. I don't buy any of this. Yeah, at this point, you're gonna need to, like, provide some pretty clear evidence. Now, I know this came out a while ago, right? 2015, I know, but I'm gonna need more than that, dude. At this point, I'm gonna need pretty clear objective evidence independent of the IDF and Israel's media apparatus to believe anything they say. They lie too much. Yeah.
It's so common, there's even a term for it. Pallywood.
This is so fucked up, dude.
As in Palestinian Hollywood.
Okay, yeah, we airstriked one of the most densely populated places. We airstriked all these hospitals. But actually, no. No, you see, it was Hamas. They faked it. They faked the deaths. They faked it to make it look like we're murdering civilians. Never mind, we're literally launching bombs inside the middle of neighborhoods, and we literally kicked all these people out of their homes, and now the new homes that they built, we just fucking leveled.
Ironically, it's the leaders of Hamas themselves who best understand the extraordinary measures the IDF will take to protect innocent civilians. They take full advantage of Israel's decency and adherence to the laws of war.
Christ. You guys ever watch, like, some of those old Nazi films talking about the Jews, how they're, like, destroying the world, how they're all conspiring and evil? Oh man, full circle, right? This is giving me big vibes of some of those films. That's a good face. We'll leave it on that face for a moment. If Israel is committing a fucking genocide, this is the kind of video I would expect to see from them to justify it.
Take such risks in order to protect civilians as the Israeli army does. I say this as a professional soldier. I say it because it's true. And people who care about truth should know it.
And people who care about truth should know it and not watch PragerU.
I'm Colonel Richard Kemp for Prager University.
Absolutely gross. I can see why Netanyahu retweeted this. Well, that's probably the most disgusting PragerU video I've seen. Oh wow, look at the like to dislike ratio. 101K up votes, 82K down votes. Holy crap. It's not a war crime if your eyes were closed the whole time. Child dying of white phosphorus burns. Say psych right now. That's right. Oh my god. I forgot about that. God, Israel has done so much bullshit. I've forgotten about a lot of it. Israel has insisted that its use of white phosphorus in the conflict was permitted under international law and that it sought to avoid unnecessary civilian deaths in Gaza. As a weapon, white phosphorus is used to mark enemy targets and used to produce smoke for concealing troop movements. This was in 2009. Jesus. 2008 to 2009, named Operation Cast Lead. Based on the in-depth investigations in Gaza, the report concludes the IDF repeatedly exploded white phosphorus munitions in the air over populated areas, killing and injuring civilians, damaging civilian structures, including a school, market, humanitarian aid warehouse, and a hospital. Like, what the fuck, dude? I guess I should talk about white phosphorus. One of the common allotropes in the chemical element phosphorus. White phosphorus is used in smoke, illumination, and incendiary munitions, and is commonly the burning element of tracer ammunition. Yeah, phosphorus and magnesium, I believe. Effects. Yes. In addition to direct injuries caused by fragments of their casings, white phosphorus munitions can cause injuries in two main ways: burn injuries and vapor inhalation. Burning. White phosphorus burns at a temperature of 2,760 degrees Celsius. Incandescent particles from weapons using powdered white phosphorus as their payload, blah, 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 blah. Phosphorus burns carry an increased risk of mortality due to the absorption of phosphorus into the body through the burned area with prolonged contact. The picture here is a Gazan youth, holy shit, their back got splattered with white phosphorus. Anyway, also, you breathe in the smoke, it can literally burn your lungs. Horrifying. It's just, what the fuck? Israel said they stopped using it. The fact they even used it to begin with, what the shit? What the shit? Netanyahu has retweeted that video. PragerU's reached the point where it's getting retweeted by world leaders in the process of committing genocides to justify what they do. Oh my god. Well, this is why we focus on PragerU. I told you there was danger to him. Well, that was that. I don't even have a joke to add to that. Just bad. Thank you to the April patron backers: Dios, Ian Diaby, Elsie Hepp, George, Irene Schaefer, James Paul, Jari Polamo, Laura Day, Mellow Cheddar, Suzanne Hendrickson, and of course, Xylorb on Bandcamp. A thought that occurred to me, the recent conflict between Israel and Palestine might just be Netanyahu kind of flexing his muscles to see what kind of response is going to get provoked by the Biden administration, by what he does. The land grabs by Israeli settlers in West Bank have gone up by a record amount during Trump's administration. It makes sense. Maybe Netanyahu's just testing the waters, see what he can get away with, right? Kind of gonna get a feel for what the Biden administration's gonna do, am I right? I think that makes sense. That's probably a fair thing to ascribe to him. Anyway, thanks for watching. Free Palestine.